Welcome back to the channel. I'm Daniel, I'm founder of TinyRig, and we're going to start a series of videos that hopefully will arm the viewers with some information that'll help you guys kind of understand how we are outfitting vehicles here at TinyRig. But I think that'll apply to the DIYers that are maybe watching, or maybe just give you some information if you're working with some other shops. So the primary focus of this video is going to be talking about battery chemistry. We're not going to get super scientific with it using that word chemistry, but we're going to talk about the differences between your start batteries and your house batteries, lithium, AGM. We're going to talk about a couple of the devices that we use here when we built these vehicles. So you guys will see we've got 3 batteries here on the table. These 2 right here are both lithium, and this one is AGM. AGM, when folks usually come to us and have us rework their vehicles, if they've already invested into a dual battery setup, they're typically coming to us with 2 AGM batteries. Great start battery, but extremely heavy. So the other thing to factor in, usually when I'm talking to a customer and selling them on kind of the house battery setup, I give information on the fact that this battery weighs a ton. So we'll get you guys some weight specs on it. I don't know off the top of my head, I actually should have gotten that. I know these ones, but this is probably close to 80 pounds, and this is a pretty small Group 24 size. Under my hood, I had a Group 31 originally when I was running just a single battery under the hood that required a separate battery cage. And also it's fatiguing for the vehicle having that much weight on a off-road vehicle. So since I've added the lithium, I've actually now downsized to just this exact battery actually. So we use full throttle when we do start battery installs. Really good idea to upgrade your start battery if you have a factory one. If you're going to run a winch, if you're going to run any off-road lighting, especially if you're going to run something like a fridge. In an ideal world, you're only using that battery to run your off-road lights and your winch. You do not want to be winching off of these. I'm going to cover that right now. The big thing with this battery is it doesn't care about what temperature it is outside. You don't need any special chargers for it. Your start battery or your alternator is going to charge this just fine. AGM batteries are known for having really good capability of doing a huge peak. So it's that winch, right? Your start battery that you get from Toyota or Jeep is really not rated for that. You can do it, but the longevity of that battery is going to suffer. The other thing with this is you guys will see that amp hours and now pretty commonly watt hours is used to give you an idea of the capacity of a battery. On an AGM battery, you really don't want to take it below, we'll call it 60%. Full throttle on their website says below 50. The reason for that is you start to damage the battery and reduce the longevity of it. So if you're someone who, let's say you're running a fridge, you've only got one battery, maybe you do have solar, but if you're getting, let's say you go out for a weekend and you don't have the best sun and you're running solar and you let this thing drop too much, you're going to start to damage it and the capacity is going to go down more and more and more. It's an older technology. They're getting better by just using better quality components inside. But this is something for starting your vehicle. It's for running auxiliary lights for short periods of time, high burst, doesn't care about weather, very, very heavy. But because you only get that, we'll just say 50% capacity, if you have an 80 amp hour AGM battery under your hood, you really only get to use about 40 amp hours of capacity. Now, we have 2 batteries here. This is the one we most commonly use at the shop for the house battery installs in the campers. And then this is Red Arc's battery that we use in certain cases. I'm going to start with the anti-gravity. So this is a lithium battery, and it has built-in monitoring in it. This does not. This battery also has built-in monitoring. We'll put up on the screen a cell phone app so that you guys can kind of see what that entails. But essentially, you'll be able to see voltage. You'll be able to see estimated runtime based on current loads. So let's say you've got your fridge going, it's inside your camper. You can open the app and you can see, okay, with the amount of solar I'm getting or with alternator charging, this is how long I can run my battery. Extremely lightweight. So this weighs about half as much as this one. This is a 31-pound battery. This is also 31 pounds. And this one we had on the same table at a show this weekend, and the guy actually thought we mounted this to the table. It's extremely heavy, right? So from a weight saving standpoint, which we so often find ourselves trying to figure out when we're building overland vehicles, running 2 of these versus this, you're losing capacity because we can only draw this down 50%. You're losing, or you're adding a lot of weight. Now, warranty, that's a big one that I usually talk to customers about. So price of this guy, we'll call this one about $400 and we'll call this one about $1,000. Big price difference, right? But if we just say from a capacity standpoint, what are you getting? Obviously, this has 125 amp hours. This is, we'll round down to 40 amp hours of usable capacity. You're getting 3x the capacity out of a lithium. The other thing is the warranty. So this battery has a 10-year warranty. If you have any issues with it from years 0 to 8, they'll actually fully replace it. In years 9 and 10, they prorate the cost of it. This battery, unfortunately, only has a 5-year warranty, but it is made by a really, really well-known manufacturer. Actually, Red Arc isn't manufacturing this. They're having somebody else do it. And this has some really cool tech in it. But just in generalized information, that 10-year warranty plus the extra capacity is where that price difference is, right? You get the added benefit of weight savings, but the other thing that we talked about with this one, the downside of it, being able to only draw half of it, this you can run down to 0. And that's because there's a battery system inside of it. It's called a BMS. It's the battery management system. And that system prevents you from damaging the cells. It'll also prevent you from sending a charge to it if it's too cold. This one is unheated. This guy is heated. And anti-gravity does make heated options, and we'll typically spec that for customers who will find themselves in colder climates. The other thing to factor in is charging for lithium. So we almost exclusively use this device, and this is a Red Arc BCDC 1250. The 12 is for 12 volts, and that 50 is for 50 amps of charge rate. Not every vehicle can take a 50 amp charger. We've got an old G-Wagon out there that we did a 25 amp charger with. And we factor that in when we build vehicles, and you should as well. This is a smart enough device. So it's, I kind of call it a dummy device because it's so simple, but form factor wise, this is a solar controller and this is your DC charger from your alternator for your secondary battery as well. Really cool thing is you can actually mix the chemistry. And you do that by just connecting different wires. You've got 3 small wires, and depending on how you connect these right here, you set the charge profile. And it changes the way it charges the battery based on the chemistry. So 50 amp charge rate, let's call it a 100 amp battery. This one's 125, right? So you're gonna charge this thing somewhere between 2 and 3 hours, all the way from 0, which again, like the amount of capacity you have in this guy is pretty impressive. This one has a little bit more, but pretty wild that you're able to throw this under your hood, put this in the camper, and have your battery recharged very, very quickly, even though they're different battery chemistries. I'm going to throw a name out there that we end up replacing in some systems or some Jeeps, Genesis. So they have now updated it, but their older setups were 2 of these guys or 2 Odyssey batteries under the hood. And the capacity just wasn't there, and you're adding a tremendous amount of weight. You're using some old school technology to be able to do that. With this charger, you're able to keep, like I said before, both chemistries different. You could do 2 of the same one. So if you have a vehicle that you don't want to put a battery in the back, you want to do 2 batteries in the engine bay, you can run that device in the engine bay. Now, one thing I want to factor in here is that the unfortunate thing about this device, the only downside in my opinion, is that it's got its own built-in temperature sensor. And back in the day when this first came out, a lot of lithium batteries were not heated and didn't have a good BMS to say, don't charge me when it's too cold. That's a downside of lithium. So this battery is unheated, this battery is heated. Once you have a heated battery, you can charge it pretty much any time. You can always discharge lithium batteries when it's cold, you just can't charge them. Heat, if things get crazy hot, you also don't want to be charging them too. But we don't experience that really in the US. Maybe Death Valley, but not too much of a concern. Let's see, I'm gonna make sure I'm covering everything that I've got out here right now. I think I covered that this guy does have the capacity to charge solar. It's also got a technology in it that'll prioritize solar over your vehicle's alternator to reduce the load on it. built-in battery monitor, no battery monitor. There's also plenty of lithium batteries that don't have the built-in battery monitor, and that device is called a shunt. And so what you're essentially doing is you've got this device called a shunt, and this particular one is the Red Arc one, and it is Bluetooth only. And over here I've got a Victron screen. That would attach to Victron's shunt and give you data on the battery. It's that battery life I talked about. This Red Arc device, you're gonna put all of your ground connections on, and then you're gonna end up having this lead to, I'm struggling to open this for you guys. You're gonna have this lead to the negative terminal on the battery. So kind of weird, you're measuring power, but you're using a ground to do that. But this device right here, which is cool how small it is going to send information to your phone and give you a readout, like I said, the capacity. So if you have one of those batteries, or you're shopping around and you're looking for maybe a way to save some money and it doesn't have a battery monitor built into it, you can go with an external device like the Red Arc or like this Victron. If you need a physical display, Victron does have that option, and we find that some customers just don't want to be using their phone at camp, and so we'll throw this guy on there. It does have Bluetooth still, but if you want and are set on having that physical display, good option. My truck back in the day, I had a Group 31 battery under the hood, I had solar on the top of the camper, and I wired this up front to the engine bay, and I put a low voltage alarm on it so that if my voltage reached an amount that I thought was too low or I wasn't comfortable with, it would start beeping at me and I could start the truck or disconnect the device if it was charging. So really good to have. That's about it, guys. I'm gonna look at my notes here. I'm always doing these one takes, so forgive me. I wanna make sure I'm covering everything. I do see that I didn't mention the capacities or the charge rates that these come in. So this is a 1250, there's a 1240, and I did mention that we did a 1225 in an old G-Wagon that's parked outside. You wanna spec those based on the input capability of these batteries. That's another good one to cover that I know I didn't cover before. So you'll see that there's a lot of variance in lithium battery prices. You can find a 100 amp hour lithium battery for a third of the price of this. Typically what's going on there is that the quality of the internals is just not there. You know, I was telling a customer this weekend, if you buy a Samsung TV, the quality of the TV panels, the LCD screen, they rate it as an A, right? And then they have B, and then they have C and whatnot. And other manufacturers buy those and they put their TVs out. Very similar to the cells of a battery. So if you are seeing a battery priced at, let's say, $300 for 100 amp hours, there's probably a reason behind that. And you can look at charge rate, you can look at how much you can discharge from it, and you'll see that those numbers are typically a lot lower than a higher end one. You also oftentimes won't have that battery monitor. So just keep an eye on that. I know I wanted to mention inverters quickly, and we'll do more videos kind of really diving in a little bit deeper into like these devices, DC chargers, shunts, but inverters as well, right? That's one thing that comes up fairly often these days. If you are looking to run an inverter, I use a best practice of 1,000 watt inverter to 100 amp hours of battery. And the reason for that is it gives you a reasonable amount of runtime, but also you need to look at those specs and see how much output do these batteries have before you start to put them into fault mode. This battery won't have a fault because it's kind of just a dumb battery. There's no intelligence behind it. But these have those computers inside that I mentioned, and if you draw too much power from them, they'll cut off and you have to reset them. So something to keep in mind. We'll do more videos like this, guys. I hope it was helpful. Maybe I'll prepare a little bit better for you guys next time and make sure I'm covering everything in there and not cheat on some notes. But we'll do some solar stuff. We have the sun flare panel that we've had at the shop for demo purposes. We'll dive into that and kind of the value of sun flare solar panels versus the competition. We'll start to show you guys some of the wiring and how we do it, talk about circuit breakers, fuses, when to sleeve cables, and we'll keep the content coming for you guys. So I appreciate you guys watching. If you're interested in having us do an electrical build out for you, give our shop a call, fill out the contact form on our website. We're doing probably a few of these a week at this point. If you guys need anything else for your vehicle, suspension, armor, we do all that stuff. Again, I'm Daniel. I'm the founder of Tiny Rig, and I appreciate you guys watching. Take care.